Dr. Shabir, welcome to Let the Quran Speak.
Pleasure to be on.
You know, we often talk about being in limbo, right? Being stuck and kind of like in a suspended state. But I understand that the word limbo has a religious connotation. It's very popularly spoken about in Christianity. And I wanted to ask Dr. Shabir if there's a sense of that term in Islam as well. So maybe we can begin by talking about what limbo is in the Christian sense.
Yeah, so limbo, as far as I can tell, comes from the Latin limbus, which means something like edge or hem. And in Christianity, this is thought, especially Catholicism, it is thought to be the edge of paradise. So that would be the place for some people who are there but not quite there, didn't quite make it in, and they're in some kind of a holding pattern right there. So something like that may be expressed in the Islamic idea of what we call al-Araf in the Quran, named after the 7th chapter of the Quran, and a verse within that 7th chapter that speaks about the heights, called al-Araf in Arabic. So what is al-Araf? The Quran does not give a lot of details about it, but it says, وَعَلَى الْأَعْرَافِ رِجَالٌ. There will be people on the heights. From that description in the 7th chapter, 42nd to 46th verses, it's obvious that these people on the heights are hoping to go into paradise. لَمْ يَدْخُلُوا الْجَنَّةَ وَهُمْ يَطْمَعُونَ. They didn't enter paradise, but they are hopeful. There is another passage in the Quran that speaks about a wall between the heaven and hell, and maybe the Araf is the top of this wall, but we don't know. These are just very sparse references, and we can only speculate. Some scholars have speculated, and one that comes to mind is Shah Waliullah of Delhi. He in a book called Al-Budur al-Bazigha, the you can say like the full moon, the moon in its splendor. He suggests that there are people who do not quite understand Islam. They just have a vague knowledge of what Islam is, and they will be in Al-Araf. So it seems to me that he's thinking, because he mentions these again in a very brief manner. So if I try to understand what is behind the statement, it seems that we understand that the message is presented to someone with a level of clarity and proof, and that person can see it clearly and then says, no, I still don't want to believe it. But for many people, it's not like that. The message has not been presented to them sufficiently or clearly. And so they have an excuse before God. They can say, you know what, I didn't really know that was your truth, God. So though I followed something else, if I had known that was the truth, I would have followed it, but I didn't know. So if their excuse is genuine, in that they really didn't know, then and they were not in a position to know, then God might forgive them, or at least they have some kind of midway here. Instead of being in a place of punishment, they will be in this mid position, which is called Al-Araf. So Shah Waliullah of Delhi mentioned some categories of people of that nature, people who are probably not in a position to know the truth, and so they're left in error, but this is not really their fault.
Mm-hmm. Have other scholars talked about this, Dr. Shabir? It seems like, as you're mentioning, it's very sparse. So I wonder if it's really a big part of the Islamic tradition.
Anyone who has written a book of commentary on the Quran has had to deal with the verses. So they come to the verses and they often express the idea, the fact that we don't know enough about this. But often you might find suggestions in the classical Arabic commentaries on the Quran, saying, for example, that as is commonly believed among Muslims, our deeds will be weighed in the life hereafter. If you have an abundance of good deeds, you go to paradise. You have a sparsity of good deeds, but an overwhelming amount of bad deeds, then your scale weighs heavily on that side, and you go to hell. May God save us from that. But then some said, what if it's exactly even? Well, then that, they're trying
suggest that maybe there's another place for these people.
Yes, and naturally for them, this is this middle place that is mentioned in the Quran, Al-Araf. And some have said that it may be that somebody has done something based on which they should enter paradise, especially if there are promises, either in the Quran or in hadith reported from the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, saying, if you do this, you enter paradise. So the person has done that. So, okay, automatically you should enter paradise. But they say, no, there could be something that holds the person back. So let's say one went out in what we might call the path of God, to struggle for good things, to serve. And so that merits going to paradise. But if that person in so going out in what was not necessary for him specifically, but in disobedience of his parents, then there is a question of what ranked higher here. Should he have gone out to answer the call to support the Muslim community on the whole? Or should he have obeyed his parents, especially maybe his mom is worried in case he goes out and, gets hurt or something like this. So her mom says, no, you cannot go. So in disobeying his mom, has he committed a sin? So the scholars are saying you might have a circumstance like this. A young man went out to serve, so he's doing a good thing, meriting entering paradise. But at the same time, he disobeyed his parents, and that holds him back from entering paradise. Mm-hmm. But after some period of holding, even such persons would be able to enter paradise. Mm-hmm. So these are some suggestions that have been offered.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Shabir, it seems like salvation is a really important part of limbo, the concept of salvation. What about in Islam?
Yeah, so in Islam, salvation obviously is paramount. And what ties in with the question of limbo is the question of children, like what happens to infants when they pass away. So in some interpretations of the Catholic tradition, baptism is the hinge on which salvation rests. Yes. So if the infant dies before baptism, then a question remains for some, like, would this infant be saved? And in the Islamic tradition, Muslim scholars have had to think about infants as well, because our general idea is that one is born on the fitra, the natural disposition to serve God and to recognize God, but something may turn that person away from that natural predisposition. A hadith says that every child is born on this fitra, and it is the child's parents who turn them into a person of another religion. So we understand then that generally, if a child passes away, then that child is going to paradise. And there is a hadith that actually seems to confirm this. There's a hadith that says that the Prophet, peace be upon him, saw a vision in which there are many children surrounding Abraham. And when he was asked about this, he was told that these are the children who died on the fitra. And his companions asked, what about the children of polytheists? And he said, even the children of the polytheists. So that means that they will be saved as well, being with Abraham.
Thank you for sharing that, Dr. Shabir. Really interesting to see these interfaith comparisons.
Thank you. You're welcome.
If you enjoyed this video, click like and subscribe. And please donate to support our work at QuranSpeaks.com.